Joe Brolly, Air Sport pundit. How long did it take for that?
You're as surprised as I am.
How long did it take for it not to sound odd to you?
Well, I hate to say no to things. You know, throughout my life, I've always, permanence wouldn't be a great thing for me, and so instinctively, whenever I got the phone call, I have to say I felt excited. You know, I love telling, you see, I love the public conversation, and so it was, when it came, it was music to my ears, I have to say. You know, particularly after the RT thing, which I thought was, finished very cruelly, and the idea that after 20 years I would have been let go because I said to Pat Spillane in the studio during the draw in All-Ireland final, "Would you stop pulling my arm?" I kid you not. Pat thought I was pranking him when I rang him to tell him, but there it is, and it was something that I had no control over in the end. So it was I enjoyed it when I got the phone call, and I have to say I was unexpectedly excited.
A good surprise, though.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And then when I learned a bit more about it too, so I wasn't conscious of the fact that, you guys have 600,000 subscribers who get the games free through the mobile phone. And like the viewing landscape's totally changed. Like one of the fellas who interviewed me there, he's got his own YouTube channel. I mean, my kids don't really watch TV anymore. And I don't know if you saw the BBC Trust report, September there, where the average age of a BBC One TV viewer now is 61. So viewing habits have completely changed, and I think it was time for me to move on too.
What should viewers expect from Joe Brolly, the pundit, on Air Sport, this upcoming Allianz League?
Well, I always, about punditry, if punditry has any importance at all, it's that you speak your mind. And we always had a glorious public conversation. Under the previous heads of sport, I was given total freedom. And, I felt I always had a very strong connection with viewers all over the country. And wherever I went, I would go to maybe 30, 40 GA clubs a year, do events and training sessions and organ donation days and things like that. And always there was great debate around things that had been generated in the studio. Because TV's about false friendship. It's about someone in their living room who you don't know and have never met responding to you, saying, this is going to be good. And I always felt that sense of drama and theatricality very keenly. But if punditry is to mean anything, and I'm not sure that it does, it's that you speak your mind, and let the dice fall where they may. We're only talking about football afterwards. After all, sorry, we're only talking about football.
Why don't you think punditry means anything?
Well, just in the overall scheme of things, I mean, it's our leisure. It does, but it's our leisure, our recreation. It's our joy, and people can it's a mother with young children. She doesn't want to hear about Cork's productivity rating, or a statistical heavy analysis, that's banal, which is the way that RT's going, very controlling, micromanaging, statistics, my phone buzzing in my pocket, like a politician being controlled by a spin doctor. And, so the fun was very much going out of it, I mean, I ignored those strictures and continued to call the game as I see it. But I think the test for a pundit should be, you imagine yourself standing in a bar with two of your mates, or any GA people who are knowledgeable about the game, and you're talking about the game. And if that's how you feel when you're sitting in the studio, well then it's going to work for people at home, because you have the elderly farmer, you've got the mother with the kids, you've got the boys in the pub boozing, keep it quiet lads, turn the telly up, and in the end it's connection.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was told by the boys, I hope you weren't just wooing me, but I was told by the boys, look, you've got complete independence,
Will that be a breath of fresh air away from the confines and the structures of a studio, and the way Air Sport do set up, that it's pitch side, you're there and it's live and it's a bit more raw?
For me, I have a very spontaneous approach to the games, and See, also I've been doing it for a long time, 20 years, and doing all the big games and, that worldwide GA audience and all. And so I have a good understanding of what works and what doesn't work, and what's going to drive some people crazy and cause other people to punch the air in delight, and create that debate. So I don't think really matters whether it's on the sideline or on the... See, at heart, I'm a fan. And if you are a fan, I think you must be a fan to be a journalist in sport, to be involved in punditry or anything. Because once you've got that love, then that communicates itself. And, I'd be as excited as a child watching some of the big games here. I mean, when Dublin played Kerry, for example, in the drawn game, you find that so compelling. And to be in the hot seat for those games, I mean, it was such a privilege, and I had an absolute blast, I have to say. So it's great that...
You can stick at it still.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Saturday night football's great. I never had an opportunity to play Saturday night football.
Yeah.
But it's great, and I always find that the night games are, there's a certain excitement.
There's a bit of a buzz about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You've played at the highest level. You were a pundit at the highest level as well, on the highest matches. Could you ever imagine your life without analysing GAA?
Well, you see, I'm coaching. It's my third year with the minors, the club minors, and I took the 12s, 14s. We won 2 under-16 championships in a row, and we just haven't been able to recreate that. But obviously, football's in my bloodstream, and I'm fascinated by the game. And for me, always I can remember very vividly as a child and again as an adult and playing for Dungiven, or whichever team I was playing for, going out in the freshly cut grass and the feel of the ball and just feeling life doesn't get any better than this. And being part of the public conversation about the games, is the next best thing. And, it's something that I'm good at. I can do it because I know that because I get the reaction all over the country. And I was, I suppose, very hurt by what happened in RT, but you were also thinking, well, look, this could well be the end. I may just have to tailor my life now accordingly, just suck it up, So this is fun.
Do you have a point to prove?
I don't really know. I mean, I'm not sure what point it was that it wasn't.
That were you trying to prove in the first place?
Yeah. And I mean, I thought we had a terrific drawn All-Ireland final, and we had such fun and all the thrills and spills of it, and me calling David Goff out saying, geez, has he been influenced by the Kerry propaganda after he gave the penalty?
Yeah.
Which I think is exactly what about 1 million people in Ireland were thinking when the penalty was given. And all the fun of that and the debate. And I mean, on the Monday night I went on Radio Kerry, they rang me and the guy said, would you like to come on Radio Kerry and explain your outrageous remarks yesterday? He said, oh, absolutely. And the crack that we had on Radio Kerry for about a half an hour, and I got a phone call from the producer afterwards. He says, can I just apologise on behalf of my Kerry men for some of the very intemperate remarks that were made? And you can't beat that. That's priceless because it's panto villain stuff. It's not real.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where I stand. And I hope that my altruism, and my regard for my fellow man speaks for itself. So that's just fun. It's knockabout. And to think that 2 days later I was being told, look, we're letting you go. You can't say that about Pat Spillane. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
And it was a fair kick in the stomach for me.
Yeah.
So this is fun, and it's great. Even today, like walk at Seacrow Park, and Paul Mannion and Cadigan and those boys and Paul Gini, radiating youth and fitness, and it stimulates your juices for the season ahead.
Yeah, Joe, it's my first time meeting you, but I can really sense there's a true love. It's not put on for Gaelic football. You're building from the ground up with the minors, of course, as well, the last couple of years. On a broader scale, is Gaelic football in a good position right now?
No. What you see with the coaching orthodoxy that has come along after Jimmy McGuinness, and I suppose this was inevitable once the GA allowed a professional system to be concertinaed into an amateur sport. That professional system became, it obliterated everything else. So the county boards their primary duty no longer is to look after the health of the game, the health of the clubs in the county, is to pay for the senior team. That's their primary duty now. And with the fact that the season is extended out to 10 months, really 11 months now is the season, you've got this coaching orthodoxy, you have peripatetic coaches, you have coaches who go around who employ these modern coaching methods of zonal defending and dropping back and sweeping. And I call it going through the motions football. And that's one of the reasons in Leinster, for example, why all of a sudden the threat of an upset has disappeared. You've got teams who are hopeless. Yeah. They feel hopeless. They're playing formulaic football. The point of the game is no longer to go out and try and win. And without that, of course, the game's pointless. The point of the game is to keep the scores down. And keeping the scores down football has exactly the opposite effect. And we see this. I'll give you a good example. So in Leinster now, Dublin can go out and they can play against Meath, and people can say, why have Meath only scored 1 point in the first half? Why are they so abysmal? What is the problem? The problem, of course, is the coaching. Over years, these boys have got bored. You get bored with the training as well. You get bored with the lack of stimulation in the setup. The length of the season, the fact that it obliterates all the other parts of your life. And then you're playing formulaic football where everybody's got a role. And they go through the motions. The reason that I say that there's an easy way to illustrate the point is you look at Mayo, who, for better or for worse, go out and play 15-man football and they go for you and they try to win. And look what they've done to the Dubs, who many people rate as one of the greatest teams ever. I personally think that has to be looked at in light of the fact that there are so many teams now coaching not to win, but to not lose. Mayo don't do that. Kerry don't do that. And look what happens whenever Mayo go out and play Kerry, or go out and play Dublin. We get these epic games and people say, why can Dublin not shake Mayo off? It's because they're trusted to play and therefore they go out and play. The great Eddie Brennan from Kilkenny with his 8 All-Irelands, he said, the reason when we sensed an opponent was on the ropes that we went and pulverised them was that Brian Cody always said to us, trust your instincts, go with the flow, play the game as you see it. And you see that. And that's a big problem with the game now, that so many counties, including my own in Derry, for example, we just go through the motions. We play go through the motions football.
How do you change that, though?
Well, I think that the first and most urgent thing is to condense the season. Extremely disappointing, but in a way inevitable, what happened to the club players associations. I mean, the fact that you've even had to form a club players association tells you the GA is not doing their job. Just in the way that county players had to form an association, told you that the GA wasn't doing its job. Stick your head in the sand, hope that it'll all come right. We're still getting big crowds to the All-Ireland semi-finals and finals. We're getting plenty of TV revenue. As long as we've got the money to pay for what we're doing, then we're fine. That's the way to approach this, which is entirely short-sighted. And we see with the way the CPA was treated. I mean, John Horan, who's a decent man, said last week the fixtures problem is unsolvable. The president of the GA, the fixtures problem is unsolvable. How is it unsolvable? I mean, everybody knows you get rid of the FBD League, the McKenna Cup. I mean, Jerry Donnelly said about the McKenna Cup, he says not even the McKennas go anymore. You get rid of the FBD League, the McKenna Cup, all that stuff. You take all that out of the schedule. You have a league and championship, a league that runs into a championship. And you have, say, 3 tiers within that. You shorten it to 4 months. You give the clubs primacy. You put it into rule that players are club players released by their clubs to play for the county.
Yeah.
You cut the bills. You cut the bills for county boards by about 2/3. So your million becomes 300,000. Your 500,000 becomes 150,000. Leitrim boys will give it a crack for 4 months. They'll play at their league. They'll play in their league, and then they'll go straight into their championship, and they'll go in at their tier. And
so you're retaining players.
You'll retain the players. They'll have a summer holiday. They'll have a Christmas holiday. They'll be able to have a job and work. They'll be able to do other things. They'll have a healthy, balanced lifestyle. I mean, we don't look to the health of our young men at all. I mean, I said 5 or 6 years ago, and it caused a huge stir, our county players are little more than indentured slaves now. Playing in the system, they don't even know why they're there. They're there 5-6 days a week. You're not going to win anything, you know. And slowly but surely a gulf's opening between the top teams and the rest, which is inevitable once you professionalise it to the extent that it's been professionalised.
That's a welfare issue then as well.
Of course it's a welfare issue. That's real welfare. Not making sure the boys have enough money for cod liver oil and that they're attending wellness classes held by Andy McNulty. You know, that's not well-being.
Yeah.
Well-being is your overall health, the fact that you're developing a career. If you're in a relationship, you're able to develop that relationship. As it is, our boys now are living in a bubble until they're 31, 32 years of age. They're drifting around universities, doing various courses, PE, wellness, you know, motivation, that type of thing. And they're ending up at 32 on the scrap heap. And it's not good enough.
You talk about the gap kind of widening. My final question, Joe. This decade, it's been billed as just Dublin-Kerry. Can you see anyone touching those two teams, or is it going to be just inevitable almost?
I fancy the Dubs for another year. I think that the Dubs could win the All-Ireland with a player manager this year. And I think that Dessie Farrell will be cute enough to say, look, this is going to be light touch. These are very independent, very mature men who are experts at winning beyond anything that Dessie Farrell ever experienced, you know, or could manage. And what you do is you leave that alone. These boys are all serious about their games. They're serious about their life outside football. Since Pat Gilroy arrived, an almost perfect culture has been created there in that group of humility, altruism, you know, that you're only, you know, that you're part of something much bigger than winning Gaelic football matches, and it's not about you.
Yeah.
And so I think that chemistry will not be interrupted by Des Farrell. He'll stay back. I would imagine that that's what he'll do, and they'll win an All-Ireland this year. I think next year is going to be the first real big test, because Kerry, surely the penny has dropped now that they must build their team around David Clifford. I mean, his performances for East Kerry this year in the Kerry Championship were simply hilarious and awe-inspiring. I mean, the kid is, I mean, he's like a fairground attraction, you know, roll up, see the amazing David Clifford. I mean, when he dummied the goalkeeper in the Kerry semi-final, he dummied him 3 times, left foot, right foot, left foot, and the keeper looked like his face was like a dog with its face out the window. He was like, you know, and the ball ends up in the net.
Yeah.
And he's also completely unselfish and an all-round football machine. So I imagine the future there will be, if they structure that team around him, they will win an All-Ireland sooner rather than later. And I expect that to be within the next 2 years.
Well, plenty of fairground attractions on the pitch and fairground attractions off the pitch. Thanks for your time, Joe. Pleasure.
Good man.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.